Hello and good morning to all. Welcome to your computer class. It is the second part of our second chapter, that is types of hardware. Till now in this chapter we have discussed about the definition of hardware, then we have discussed about the classification of hardware components, and then we have also discussed about the memory or storage devices. In this session or in this class we have to discuss about all the memory or storage devices that we have, and then from the next class we have to start input and output devices. So now let's begin. Well, we will start this class with a quick revision of RAM and ROM. It's a proper difference and a revision of this term RAM and ROM. As I have taught you earlier, in our computer we have two types of memories, primary memory and secondary memory. Primary memory is the own memory of our computer CPU. It means it is that piece of memory which is either directly plugged in the computer's motherboard or it is already available in the computer's motherboard. So we have two types of primary memories, RAM and ROM. Fine. This RAM stands for random access memory, whereas ROM stands for read-only memory. RAM is a form of data storage that can be accessed randomly at any time in any order by the CPU. It means the data of RAM is generally stored for the CPU processing purpose. Fine. And this data can be used by CPU as per the requirement of processing. Next we have ROM. ROM is also a form of data storage that generally stores hardwired instructions for the computer to start initially. It means in the ROM we have some common instructions which have to be executed every time when you will initiate your computer system. Or in easy words we can say that whenever we start our computer system, the instructions of ROM are executed first. Fine. Then next we have their alterations. RAM contents can be changed or altered as and when required. Fine. So whenever we open a document, the data of that document is generally stored in the RAM. So it means the data of RAM can be changed, or it can be deleted, or it can be altered. But with ROM it is not possible. ROM cannot be easily altered or reprogrammed. Fine. So it is not possible for us to reprogram a ROM. We have to use some other special type of ROMs for that. Next we have their use. RAM allows the computer to read data quickly to run applications. It means this RAM is generally used for giving a proper user experience so that our computer can easily process the applications. Whereas ROM stores the programs required to initially boot the computer. It means the basic use of ROM is just to boot or turn on our computer system. Fine. So generally whenever we open any application, that application is stored in computer's RAM, whereas whenever we open our computer system, the instructions for the booting are stored in the ROM. Okay. Then operations supported. Our RAM can read or write data, whereas ROM is only readable, it cannot be changed. Then volatility. Generally our RAM is volatile in nature. Volatile means the content of RAM can be changed or it is temporary. It means if we switch off the power supply, in that case the data of the RAM will be deleted or erased, whereas ROM is non-volatile. Non-volatile means the data of ROM will not be erased even if you switch off the power. Fine. Then next we have size. Well, RAM is generally very high or very big in size in compared to the ROM. Fine. The size of RAM is generally in gigabytes. It can be 1 GB, 2 GB, 3 GB, 4 GB, 5 GB and so on. Whereas ROM is a very small memory. The size of ROM is very little or very small and it is generally in megabytes. Then next we have speed. RAM chips can read data faster in compared to the ROM. Fine. Because generally this RAM is used by the CPU directly for the processing of application. That's why this memory is very fast. Whereas RAM is a bit slower in compared to the RAM, because the only function of the ROM is to process the booting. Fine. So it was all about RAM and ROM. If you have any doubt, you can comment down all your queries, or you can just simply read it once. Now let's move to our next topic. Next we have to discuss about all the factors which can affect our computer's working or computer's performance. Most of you have found that our mobile phones or our computers sometimes not behave properly or not work properly. Fine. So there are some factors which defines the working of our computers or our mobiles? Well, there are some common things that you all might have noticed. Sometimes when we are playing any game or when we are using any application either in our computer or in our mobile phones or our computers generally hang. Fine. Or there is a lag in the data. Fine. So that lag is just because of some performance factors. So one by one we have to discuss 3 performance sectors. The first factor is CPU speed, second factor is memory size, and the third factor is number of applications which are running. Our first factor is CPU speed. Well, our CPU is very fast. Fine. Just like a simple clock, our CPU also ticks, and along with every tick it processes a instruction. It means in every second it is processing some instructions. Fine. So generally the CPUs that we are using, these CPUs are very fast. These CPUs can execute millions or billions of instructions in a second. Fine. So first read and then we have to discuss that why the CPU speed is important. The CPU contains a tiny quartz clock. Each time this clock ticks, one instruction can be dealt with the CPU. So it means every time our CPU has to execute some instructions. So the more times the clock ticks per second, the more instructions the CPU can carry out. It means every second our CPU has to process some instructions. So the speed of CPU is measured either in megahertz or it is measured in gigahertz. Fine. Nowadays the new computers that we are using, in all these new computers or in new gadgets, the speed of CPU is measured in gigahertz. A 1 megahertz CPU can easily process or it can carry out million instructions per second. Fine. It means a simple 1 megahertz CPU can easily carry out or process 1 million instructions in a second. Whereas if we talk about 1 gigahertz CPU, then 1 gigahertz CPU can easily carry out or process 1 billion instructions per second. Fine. So you have to learn this point that in 1 megahertz it can process up to 1 million instructions, whereas in 1 gigahertz it can process up to 1 billion instructions. Fine, these are a lot. Well, typically the CPUs that we are using nowadays, most of these CPUs are capable enough to perform a processing up to 3 gigahertz. It means these computers can easily carry out 3 billion instructions per second. So it simply shows that the computers that we are using nowadays, these are very fast when compared to the old technologies. But sometimes if we have an old CPU or a lower performance CPU, in that case our computer will not perform well or it will start lagging. So the best possible option that we have to improve the system in performance is to change or to upgrade our computer's CPU. Fine. So if your computer is not working properly, in that case you can just simply try to change your CPU or the processing chip and it can improve your system performance. Now next we have to discuss about memory size. This memory size is something which is very important for our CPU. Well, there is a very common myth with us. Whenever we talk about this term memory, in general we have our mindset that we have to think about either a hard disk or we have to think about a memory card or a pen drive or something like that. Well, in general when we talk about a memory, that memory refers to the memory of our CPU. And that memory is our computer's RAM, that is random access memory. So as we know that all the temporary files or the files which are being executed by the processor are stored in the RAM, that's why this RAM plays a very important role in the computers. Now let's read and then discuss. CPU uses a temporary memory called RAM, which stores documents and files while we are working on them. So if we have a Word file open and an email or a website or some couple of images, then all these files and documents will use our RAM. Fine, now let's take an example. Suppose you are playing a game, along with that you are listening to a music, at the same time you are sending a mail and one file is also downloading. So now all these sort of operations will consume some storage of your computer's RAM. Fine. Now this overall process will put a lot of burden on our computer's RAM, and in that case there is a possibility that our RAM will not perform well or our computer will start lagging. Fine. It is just because that every program that we are using, that program is using our computer's RAM. So sometimes for increasing our system performance, the better option is just to upgrade our system's RAM. Fine. So we can be sure of this because remember, when we switch off our computer, well, we know that most of the instructions that we are executing, these instructions are stored in computer's RAM. And for analyzing this, we can simply do one thing. We can simply restart our computer once. You all might have found that whenever we restart our computer or whenever we restart our mobile phones, then in that case our computers or mobile phones generally start working better in compared to the previous state. Fine. It is just because when we restart our mobile phones, it clears the junk of the RAM. Fine. So it means this RAM plays a very vital role in the computer's performance. Fine. So that's why sometimes it is better for us to upgrade our system's RAM. Well, generally in old computers or in old mobile phones, we have a RAM of 1 GB or 512 megabits, fine, or 2 GB. Well, nowadays this RAM is very low. Fine. So generally the RAM that we have to use these days, it is minimum 4 GBs or more. Next factor is number of applications. Well, this number of applications plays a very vital role, or it plays a vital role in the performance of our computer system. As many as apps you will open, the more amount of RAM will be consumed. And if most of the part of the RAM is consumed, in that case your computer will not work properly or it will start lagging. Fine. So now let's read and discuss. The more applications we open, the faster our RAM will fill up. Even if we increase amount of RAM, it eventually fill up during the day. Fine. So another possible way to improve system performance is to limit the amount of active applications. Fine. Now we can do one simple thing. If in case we want our computer to work properly or smoothly, in that case we have to follow a very simple routine. After using every application, we have to close it. Fine. Because if we are closing an application properly, in that case that application will simply leave the amount of some RAM, and then our system will work smoothly or better in compared to the previous state. Fine. So these are some factors which can improve our system's performance. Now next we have to discuss about our secondary storage devices or the storage devices. Fine. Now in our computer, along with the primary memory, these secondary memories are also very important. Fine. Generally the computer's primary memory is only used by CPU while it is processing the instructions. But after the processing process, our computer sometimes has to save the results also for the future use. And for saving all these results, we cannot use primary memory because our primary memory is either temporary or it is non-volatile. Fine. So it is either volatile or non-volatile. Fine. So it means in that case we cannot store our data in the primary memory, and for that purpose we have to use a secondary storage device. Fine. And that is the main reason why in most of our mobile phones or in our computers we either have a flash memory or we have a hard disk. Fine. So in this flash memory or in this hard disk, our data that we have to keep permanently with us is stored. Fine. Whereas in our computer's RAM, some temporary files are stored which are being processed by the CPU. Fine. So now let's read and discuss. Primary memory has a limited size or capacity and is not permanent. Hence, secondary memory devices are used to store large amount of data permanently. Fine. There are various types of secondary storage devices. These are floppy disk, hard disk, CD, DVD, pen drive, Blu-ray disc, and then memory stick or memory cards. Now one by one we have to discuss about all these storage devices. Our first device is floppy disk. This floppy disk is an old storage media. Fine, it was used earlier in late 90s. Fine, for storing data. The floppy disk is made by a flexible material, mylar. Fine, this mylar is a type of polyester material. Fine, so this is used in our floppy disk. these were one of the oldest type of portable storage devices that could store up to only 1.44 megabits. Megabytes. So these devices were only able to store 1.44 MB or megabytes of data. And that is the main reason why we can't use them today, because nowadays the images that we are using or the pictures that we have in our mobile phones, these pictures are more than 2 to 3 megabytes. Next we have hard disk. Well, this hard disk is a very popular storage media because it is available in every computer. Fine. Well, the hard disk memory stored the information on one or more platters. Fine, this term platter is very important, which are continuously spinning. Fine, as you can see over here on this picture, it's a picture of our hard disk. It is an open hard disk. You can see that we have multiple disks inside this one. Fine, inside this hard disk case, we have multiple CD-like disks. In each disk, data is stored. Fine, and these disks are termed as disk platters. Fine, these disks are termed as disk platter. Every disk platter are readable from both the sides. Fine, and in each side there is a read-write head. This arm that you are able to see over here, fine, this particular arm is a read-write head of our hard disk, and with the help of this arm, our computer or our hard disk is generally managed. Fine, and this disk is continuously spinning when we switch on our computer system. Fine, these rotating disks are coated with a magnetic material and stacked with space between them. Fine, so it means there are multiple disks which are stacked. Fine, and these disks are coated with a magnetic material so that we can easily, or our computer can easily read or retrieve data from it. Fine, as you can see over here, one disk platter is visible on this side, whereas other one is visible on this side, and you can easily find the gap between these two. Fine. Well, these disks are very thin in size. That's why the size of a hard disk is very small. Information is recorded on the surface of the rotating disk. Fine. So every information that we store in our computer, that information is stored in these disk platters. Fine. Next we have compact disk. Compact disk or CD is a very popular and a very cheap storage device that we have. Generally these CDs are very cheap. Fine, one CD will cost you maximum 10 rupees. Fine, and they have a very limited storage capacity. We can only store up to 700 MB of data, that is 700 megabytes of data. Fine, these CDs are generally used for storing media files such as audios or videos. Fine, these CDs are available in various forms. We have CD-ROM. CD-ROM means a CD in which we cannot change the data. That data can only be written once. Next we have CD-R. In a CD-R, we can record data as per our wish. Then next we have CD-rewritable. In a CD-rewritable, we can read or write data as per our requirement. But with this CD, we have a very big problem. Once if we fill something in our CD, that data cannot be erased. Fine. And if you try to erase that data, suppose you are using a CD-RW or a CD-rewritable and now you are erasing some data. Well, that data will disappear, but that storage amount will not be reused. Fine. Next we have DVD. DVD is similar to a CD, but it contains more storage capacity in compared to a normal CD. Fine. The initial storage size of a DVD is 4.2 GBs. Fine. Whereas it can store up to 17 gigabytes. Okay. DVD is an optical storage device that looks the same as a compact disc but is able to hold about 15 times as much information and faster to it. The computer about 20 times as fast as a CD-ROM. So it means these devices are fast and can store more data in compared to a CD. But they both have a similar appearance. Fine. So you cannot differentiate between their images. A DVD also called a super density disk. Fine. A DVD is also termed as a super density disk because it can store up to 17 GB of data. Fine. That is equals to 4 hours of a movie. DVDs are available in various forms: DVD-ROM, DVD-R and DVD-RW. Fine, you have to learn all these full forms. Okay. Well, one most important thing, this DVD stands for digital versatile disc. Okay. So you have to learn the full form of DVD also. Next we have Blu-ray disc. Well, now let's talk about those few who must have a PlayStation in their homes. If you have a PlayStation in your home, in that case you might have seen this Blu-ray disc. Fine. This Blu-ray disc is a type of DVD, or we can say that it is a successor version of DVD. Fine. Well, it is called Blu-ray disc because for reading or writing the data of this Blu-ray disc, a blue colored laser light is used, whereas in a simple DVD a red color light is used. Fine. Now because in this Blu-ray disc a blue color light is used, that's why it is termed as a Blu-ray disc. Fine. And it can store more data in compared to a DVD, and it has a similar size and appearance. Fine. The storage capacity of a Blu-ray disc is 25 GB in a single layer disc, 50 GB in a double layer disc, 100 GB in a 3-layer disc, and more than 128 GB in 4-layer disc. But most of the players that we have for reading these Blu-ray discs, they are not capable enough to read more than 128 GBs. Fine. So that's why all the players that we do have in the modern age, these can store or these can read maximum up to 100 GBs. Fine. And these Blu-ray discs are generally used with the PlayStations. As you can see over here, we have this term Mitsubishi. Fine. It's a company, I think so. Fine. So these are generally used for storing games and large media files such as animation. Okay. Next we have pen drive or thumb drive or flash memories. Fine. Now generally when we talk about this term flash memory means a circuit chip. Fine. A circuit chip which is able to store the data. Fine. So as you can see over here in this picture of this pen drive, this open pen drive, we have a circuit chip over this side, and then we have a circuit chip over this side. Fine. This circuit chip is a read-write controller, or we can say that it is a type of processor. Fine. And the circuit chip which is located over this side, it is the main memory or the main flash drive where all data is stored. Fine. Inside our mobile phones, in our smart gadgets, in all the hybrid computers, in the pen drives. Fine. In most of the devices where we can store data, in these devices we have this chip only. Fine. We have this black colored chip, and this black colored chip is termed as flash memory. Okay. So it means the technology which is used by our computers memory or our pen drives or our mobile phones memory is similar. Flash is a solid state memory. Solid state means it is in the form of a IC or integrated chip. It has no moving parts. Fine. In this we don't have any moving part or any laser technology. It works similar to a RAM. Fine. It works similar to a RAM. Fine. The working, it means the reading writing process is similar to a RAM, but the only difference is that in RAM data is temporary in nature. It means if you will switch off the power, the data will be erased, whereas in these flash memories the data is permanent in nature. Permanent means when you will turn off the power, the data will not be erased. Fine. And the best thing is that these flash memories are available in variety of sizes. The minimum capacity of a flash memory is 1 GB, that is available nowadays. Fine. It can have various sizes, and the most commonly available maximum size is 256 GBs or 512 GBs. Okay. Next we have memory stick. This memory stick is similar to a memory card, and it is generally used with the camcorders, music players and smartphones. Fine. It is similar to a flash memory, but it's a very small chip which can store data for permanent use. It is portable and removable. The minimum size of a memory stick is 4 GB and maximum it can be up to 256 GB. Fine. So these were some memory devices that we have to discuss and that we have discussed now. Now the last one, we have a difference between primary memory and secondary memory. Read this difference once properly by yourself. It's a homework for you all. You have to read this difference by yourself. If in case you feel any difficulty, you can comment down all your problems. And in our next turn, we will start from this slide only. Fine. After this, we have to discuss input devices and output devices also. So, study well, prepare well, stay healthy, stay in your home and keep learning. Thanks for watching.